Welcome to segment 2 of Citizens Forum, being filmed on Tuesday, May the 19th in the Memorial Arena in Victoria. I'd like to thank again the Shaw crew, the Shaw staff, and our volunteer crew that makes the program happen. Our guest in this segment is Werner Simbeck. Werner's been on the show a few times before, and we've usually talked about climate change, and that's what we're going to be talking about again.
We're going to talk about that again, yeah.
And you wanted to start off by talking about something that I barely realized, which is that they've just declared a state of drought in Washington State.
That's right, yeah. They just declared a state of drought in Washington State. So they have such a low snowpack this spring over the winter time. They got average rainfall, but the temperature was so high that in the mountains it was raining instead of snowing.
Right.
So there's no snow in the mountains. So now they're really concerned that a lot of streams that are salmon bearing as well as have trout in them and are used for agricultural uses are not going to be enough for everybody. So now they're going to basically stop agricultural use, only provide those agricultures that provide, I guess, a high yield or a high profit, like cherries, for example, and people that grow potatoes are out of luck.
So you mean they're cutting back on irrigation water for some crops in Washington?
Right. In Washington, yeah, because of this severe drought that they have. Well, the snowpacks are at 16% of their average. That means 84% is not there. So they don't have any water really for certain areas in Washington in order to irrigate crops. And my concern is that we don't talk about it here at all. So this is maybe a somewhat natural event, but its severity has been increased due to climate change. You know, every year there are some fluctuations, but because of climate change and what we understand how climate change works is that droughts get more severe, and that is an example of a severe drought right now. California has been in the 4th year, I think, of a severe drought. There it just hasn't been raining at all. Never mind about snowing in the mountains. So they have to cut back severely as well.
You know, it never occurred to me because I checked our rainfall here in Victoria through the winter, and it was quite average, a very, very average year. It never occurred to me what you just said, which is that in other places it's raining instead of snowing, or it was raining, and therefore there is no snowpack.
Most salmon...
So when you have the snowpack, it melts through the summer.
That's right.
And feeds...
It's like a battery. Like you store the water for later. And that's how it works. Glaciers is a perfect example. And it's great that we have that normally. Glaciers and snowpacks slowly melt over the spring and summer that gives water all the way into the end of summer. And then, of course, as winter rolls around, you know, fall, it starts raining and snowing again in the mountains and it replenishes the reservoir, but it hasn't been doing that. And, you know, I think it would be really critical at this point, you know, in BC to talk about this issue, because Washington is going to expect to have the biggest fire season ever. And last year was already the biggest on record. So they're going to have one even worse this year potentially because of this lack of water everywhere.
And in BC, we've already got the big fires.
Yes, it already started really early, right?
There was something, Christy Clark was saying something about this. She said, people have got to be very careful about starting human-caused fires.
Exactly. Sure.
And I thought, what a joke for Christy Clark. Let's frack the entire province and sell natural gas and oil.
Right.
For her to be telling people to be careful about starting forest fires shows and the media too. I mean, even what you told me before we came here, I mean, I just I'm not getting the picture.
Right. I suppose, you know, it is important. I mean, I give her some credit, at least she points this out. I mean, it is a concern that the forests are dry, but why they're dry, or the reasons for them being so dry, doesn't get addressed at all. Like, the reasons why, right? Oh, it's El Nino, this will be used as an example. Oh, it's an El Nino year, that's why it's so dry. Well, no, it's been a trend, and that trend has been exacerbated because of climate change. And we've been warned about this 30 years ago already about this, Ash. And that's really the shortcoming of the politics, the politicians. If you look at what the Harper government is doing, I mean, they're muzzling scientists. They're not allowed to speak. They have to get approval to give an interview to a journalist about work that they do, because it could potentially be damaging to the conservative brand. I mean, that's ludicrous. That's just foolishness. Now we're getting close to Paris. Paris is going to have a big conference in Paris happening the end of this year. It's a climate change conference where it's going to be negotiated a new climate treaty, a global climate treaty. Canada now has thrown in, I guess, its targets, its goals for this treaty. Reducing emissions by 30% by 2030 based on 2010 levels, I believe, emission levels. And we need, in order to meet this, we would have to buy credits now from other places on the global market, basically. We have to pay somebody else for carbon credits because we can't meet our own targets.
Yeah, so what can we do here? I mean, it's an urgent issue. We talked about three things. Cars. We've got cars. The meat industry, which is huge, and the cement industry, which is another big player. We've just, in all areas, we've just got to consume less. That's just what we've got to do.
What people can do, and this maybe strikes you as most listeners as something odd, but actually meat production has a really large carbon footprint. It not only uses a lot of water, actually, because we're talking about water, but it uses a lot of fossil fuel energy. And it's so high that it actually amounts for about 50% of our emissions comes from meat production. So what people can do in order to reduce their carbon footprint is eat less meat, far less meat. We don't need to eat it every day, right? It has actually other health benefits of eating less meat. So by basically going to a more vegetarian-style diet, eating meat occasionally rather than all the time, not only will it be good for your health, but it'll also be good for the climate. So that would be one. And of course, driving less would be another. Switching to a vehicle that uses less fuel. Improving on insulation of your home. Reducing the thermostat in the wintertime. It doesn't have to be 22 degrees. It could be 19 degrees.
Smaller homes.
There are so many things that we can be doing, but really the leadership has to come really from the top. The governments need to do their share. They need to educate, but also they need to lead by example. Europe is way ahead of the game here compared to us. North Americans have been sleeping at the wheel here. I just came back from Germany, and in Germany they have done a lot. You can see it. You can see windmills. You can see solar installations everywhere. They're trying. They have smaller vehicles than we do. You don't see really big, large vehicles like we do here. So
better public transit?
Way better public transit. It's been fabulous. We were in Hamburg for 5 days. We never missed a car once because we could use the subway system that they have, and it works just fabulous.
How does the subway system feel? Clean, safe, comfortable, pleasant?
All of the above. All of the above. It's fantastic. You wouldn't want to be in a car because you have the ability to chat. I mean, you could chat with my wife and my son. We could talk. We could enjoy what you see outside. So it was perfect for us sightseeing. But for the average person who goes to and from home, to and from work, it's very relaxing. It's a relaxing way to get to and from work. Being stuck in traffic for an hour each way in the morning, say in Vancouver at rush hour, or here now doing the crawl that we have again because of all these people who are living outside of Victoria and trying to get into town to work. I mean, if we had public transit, if we had a government who was willing to look ahead and see where the future is and actually put land aside and eventually put money aside and then build the infrastructure that we need, we would be ahead of the game. But we're going to keep losing out, and we're no longer competitive to Asia. Asia is spending lots of money on public transit. Europe has spent over the decades lots of money on public transit. So that's where the focus should be. We have to reduce our emissions, and we have to, we all have to do it together in order to achieve that.
And where are we now? I mean, it's not that we should even think that if we start to reduce our emissions and do a little bit less, we can avoid catastrophe, because catastrophe may be around the corner and irreversible. That's how bad things are.
Well, we've waited now so long. So the politics have been manipulated by the interest groups now for 30 years, basically. We've known about the dangers of climate change for a good 30 years. and nothing has happened really on the world stage. We had Kyoto. Kyoto was dismissed as useless, waste of time, waste of money, wasn't working. Well, if nobody is willing to agree and actually do something, of course it's useless.
But Europe did.
Europe did. They took it to heart. They actually did do something. And actually in France, I'll give you a nice example here. France just passed a law. Every roof, every new roof has to be either covered in solar panels or become a green roof. You can no longer have a bare roof in France, a new roof, new construction. These are rules for new construction. I mean, that's very far, this is visionary thinking.
It's unfortunate that people have to hear about this on our show. Why isn't this, big in the media? Because this is important. This shows what can and should be done, but we just don't hear about it.
You might hear it occasionally. You might hear some of this information on radio. They may have a 2-second news clip on this, but it doesn't get discussed.
Yeah.
There's no discussion going on. It's a sound bite here and there, but that's not enough. We need to talk about it. Do we have to really wait until we have a drought where the salmon no longer can go home, where we have to truck them upstream because there's not enough water in the rivers? Do we have to wait that long?
They're doing now in Washington.
They're going to be doing this in the summer in Washington and in the fall. Do we really have to wait that long until we no longer have water for agriculture?
So who can be leading the discussion? I mean, where does the leadership come from?
I mean, the leadership will do whatever the public demands. So obviously, people have to write to their MLA or to their MP and ask them where they stand on climate change. Ask them where they stand on emission reduction targets. Where are they? The Liberals, do they agree with the emission targets that the Conservatives have proposed now for Paris coming up this fall? What's Mr. Trudeau going to do? We know where the Green Party stands. I mean, but where does the NDP stand on this? Do we really going to continue on the disaster that goes on in Alberta, with the tar sands? The area that they're mining is as big as England, right?
And we're going to have to leave it at that. Werner, thank you very much. It's
You're
kind
welcome.
of an unfortunate situation. It's up to us to do something. Thanks for watching this segment of Citizens Forum.